this morning to sit down with us as you have been working on such an important project and really an important piece for families with teenagers, families with young children.
Yeah, Bryce Tate is his name. And Bryce was 15 years old and a sophomore at Nitro High School. His whole life ahead of him. By all accounts, just happy-go-lucky, not bullied, wasn't going through a heartbreak with a girlfriend. There was no reason. His parents would never, ever, according to his parents, ever have had any reason to suspect that Bryce would take his own life. And at the age of 15, he did. And they had no idea why. They had no clue. They couldn't figure out. 12 days, they went through the funeral. 12 days went by until they finally got a call from the Sheriff's Department in Kanawha County that said, come down to the office. We have something we need to show you. And they went down, and that's when they learned what the word sextortion meant. And they learned all about what went into it and how their son was essentially, according to the Sheriff's Department, just victimized and pushed and pushed and pushed into, pulling the trigger. And it was just such a very, very sad thing for his parents to have to go through, obviously, the loss of a child. But the fact that they found out why, this has now given them purpose. It's taken a long, think about it. It's anytime you go through something like this. And it's not like, okay, we have purpose, now we're good. They are still suffering tremendously and going to counseling and trying to deal with this as parents. But they have this sense of purpose on trying to get something done, especially at the education level.
Tim, for some of us who don't know what sextortion is, can you give us a breakdown? Because this is a term that we've started to hear more about, and I think it's the world that we live in, technology heavy. But for parents who say, I've never heard that,
right?
Help break that down for us.
Yeah, it's okay. I think most people know what extortion is, and that's where somebody's trying to squeeze money out of somebody. And in this case, the sextortion that takes place involves trying to target a person, making them think that they're talking to somebody else. In many cases, they'll go after, for example, teenage boys, and they entice them with, hey, they think they're talking to another teenage girl, and they strike up this conversation. And it's like, oh, how do you know me? Oh, I know your friend. And so they work their way in and slowly build this trust over the course of maybe, say, a half hour to an hour. And they feel like they are starting to have this rapport. They flirt with the teenage boy, and then that's when they start sharing pictures, like intimate pictures. And then they ask, oftentimes, the teenage boy, "Why don't you share some pictures of yourself?" They're enticed into it. They do it, and then, boom! That's when the extortion begins. They drop the bomb on them and say, "I'm actually a guy, and you need to pay me now, or I'm taking these photos that you sent me." And I'm going to release them to the public. Everybody's going to see these photos. All your friends, everybody, everywhere. Your parents' friends, and the pressure just builds and builds and builds. And they say, but it all can go away if you pay me, $500 or $1,000, whatever they're seeking. They ask for that money, and that's the root of the problem. Is that they have these. They paint these kids. They feel like they've been painted into a corner, and there's no escape, and they either have to pay, or that's when it gets very, very dark. And in many cases, they start following a script, the extortionist does, that suggests if you can't do anything about it, if you're not going to pay me, you might as well kill yourself. And as absolutely crazy as that idea seems, it's a script that, according to police, it's followed by these professional extortionists who are targeting these, mainly kids, but they also target adults too.
I think that younger generation is dealing with something so heavy and so different, even from when you and I were in school. That the technology has changed so much, and there is such a pressure for that kind of intensity in the moment for young children. This family, though, has really used their situation to kind of be a word of warning. And I want to go ahead and play that video for you so you can kind of preview and we can take a look at your story that will air this afternoon.
Right.
Like they murdered my son.
Bryce's story, text message tragedy, Thursday at 1 p.m. on WSAZ+.
I'm to go ahead and bring that back up, because this is really a conversation that has become so important.
Yeah. You heard what he said. He said, we asked the question, do you feel like your son, that like they literally put the gun in your son's hand? And I didn't know how Mr. Tate, Bryce's dad, would react to that. I didn't know if he would say, well, no, but he was emphatic in his belief that they killed his son. He said, they murdered my son. It was alarming. So yeah, we're going to take another look at it.
At 15 years old, Bryce Tate had his whole life ahead of him, but in just a few hours, what started with a text message led to an unthinkable tragedy.
And I hear her screams, and she's just screaming for me to get there to help and telling Bryce to come back to her.
Bryce had taken his own life in what investigators call a case of sextortion. Thursday, Bryce's father shares his son's story and a life or death warning every parent should hear.
Without a doubt, I feel like they murdered my son.
Bryce's story, text message tragedy, Thursday at 1 p.m. on WSAZ+.
When you see that, and to know and to have that father share what his family has gone through, can you kind of give us a little bit of a preview of what that'll be? But what was something that that really stuck out to you?
I think I keep coming back to it over and over again, Kimberly. It's the what he said about how if his son, because Adam was at work at the time. He works at a chemical plant in the Kanawha Valley, and his wife Amanda was home. Amanda has obviously had an even tougher time than Adam has, if you can imagine, since she was home at the time it happened, and so she's going through a lot. A lot of PTSD right now, as you can only imagine. And so she wasn't able to speak with us, which I totally understood. And it took Adam a long time we talked on the phone a lot, and Adam was very forthright about, what he thought. But he just kept coming back to the fact that if I would have been home, and these are the things. And I said, well, yeah, hopefully you don't have any regrets. You didn't. He said, no, because we didn't. We don't have guilt or regrets because we had no idea what was going to happen. We didn't know what sextortion was. Bryce didn't know what it was. Nobody knew it was. They were completely caught off guard. They feel like their entire family was victimized. So there's that part that really sticks out. And then the other part of, he does say that if his son would have said, Dad, look, I got to show you my phone, he would have said, give me that phone. And he would have blocked and deleted. And according to the Sheriff's Department in Kanawha County and the FBI and anybody who's been investigating this kind of stuff over the last several years, they all say that in most cases, in the vast majority of cases, these are international actors who are in Indonesia or another country somewhere overseas that are beyond don't have extradition laws with the U.S., so they can get away with whatever they want. So it's 5 or 10 guys sitting around a table, and they're getting this message out to kids like, "Hey, just give me your." And if in Bryce's case, if in fact that was what happened, and it looks like it was one of these international follow a script kind of extortionists. If he would have just deleted and blocked, his fears of like, oh, my friends and my family and everybody, they're gonna see these intimate pictures that I posted or that I sent, that would never have happened, because they were just like, the extortionists would be just like, we're moving on to the next person. We don't care about this kid. We just wanted our money. So it's not like they're actually looking to post those pictures somewhere, and they might not even have the means to post them. They're just trying to scare him into believing that. And if the poor kid would have just blocked and deleted, and I can't stop thinking about that. Like that's the big takeaway from here. So obviously the education component of a bill that's in the West Virginia legislature, and we did a story on that a couple weeks ago. The education component of that, state school boards on board. They're going to be talking within the classroom, talking to students, telling kids, middle, high school especially, don't fall for this. And if you do, it's not the end of the world. Just block and delete, block and delete. They'll probably go away. And it's certainly, if they can get that message out, that's the most important thing.
I think this is a conversation that if you have a teenager, and I don't even think it matters the age. I think anybody, even just your family, maybe you have people that are in their 20s.
Yeah.
I think just because of the world that we live in, it's a conversation that we can't have enough.
Right.
And to stress to people, there is a way out of this. It is not the end of the world.
Right.
I think the gravity of the situation and the severity of it is so difficult. So, Tim, your story actually airs here on WSAZ Plus this afternoon at 1.
Right.
And so we're going to kind of walk people through. If you don't have the app here on WSAZ Plus, it's really simple to get, and you can actually watch that story first. Plus, you have a really good interview afterwards. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
This will premiere for the very first time on the WSAZ app. Now, it's on Roku TV, and it's easy to get. All you have to do is go to the search engine on Roku, you go to WSAZ, you click on the app, and it takes you right to a download. Once you download it, you can open up the app. And then once you open up the app, it takes you to the WSAZ Plus homepage. And right there on the homepage is Bryce's story. Once again, that will be this Thursday at 1 o'clock on WSAZ Plus. And if you're not in front of your TV, no worries. You probably have your phone in your hand. Once again, Thursday at 1 p.m., you can go to the WSAZ app on your phone and go to WSAZ live stream. And that's where you can see Bryce's story.
All right, so Bryce's story premieres here on WSAZ Plus at 1. We're also going to have it in our evening newscast as well. You can catch it at 6 o'clock, right?
Yep, 6 o'clock, and then we will have an interview at 6 o'clock that we actually have here in the WSAZ Plus studio. First off, with Sergeant Jeremy Burns. We spoke with him. He's from the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department. He was in on the initial investigation, and he has a lot of things to say about trying to reach out and that education component of trying to reach out to kids.
All right. Well, thank you, Tim, so much for your work on this piece. We know it's a really important conversation for a lot of families. And so, I think things will look a little different for a lot of them. Even this weekend, I think some of those families will probably start that conversation.
Sure. You're right. It's just getting that conversation started is the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, you can watch Tim's story here at 1 o'clock. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much, and have a great Thursday.